Welcome to the Exam Room Live, brought to you by the Physicians Committee. Hi, I'm Carroll, and this is the healthiest half hour anywhere online today. Appreciate you joining us right here on Facebook and on YouTube. Coming up, she is a cancer survivor, diagnosed late stage. And even with the treatment being successful, she thought it was only a matter of time until that cancer came roaring back. That is, until she learned about nutrition and took back control of her health. Author Sally Lipsky is here to share her incredible story with us today. Sally, appreciate you being here.
Wonderful to be here with you, Chuck.
And tune up the band because the one and only Dr. Jazz is with us today as well, ready to answer your questions. Dr. Jasmol Sardana going to be raising our nutrition IQs as we open up the doctor's mailbag. Dr. Jazz, you ready for a little bit of everything?
Let's go, Chuck.
All right, I love that. So send in your questions right now by posting them in the comment section, or you can tweet them to us using the hashtag ExamRoomLive. But you know what? First, as always, let's get caught up on the latest happenings. Here are your health headlines for Tuesday, October 6th, 2020. The World Health Organization releasing its latest findings on the spread of the coronavirus, finding that only 1 out of 10 people worldwide may have contracted it so far, leaving nearly 90% of the population still vulnerable. This, as tracking by the Washington Post, finds more than 30 states as well as Washington, D.C. have seen an increasing number of cases over the last week, with 40,000 new infections being reported Monday, along with more than 450 deaths. The death toll in the U.S. now more than 210,000. Meanwhile, the race to develop a coronavirus vaccine could come at the cost of the lives of hundreds of thousands of sharks. A number of the vaccines currently under development rely on a compound known as squalene, and that is found in the oil that is produced by shark livers. Developers say squalene produces a stronger immune response in humans. Smithsonian Magazine estimating 250,000 sharks would have to die in order to harvest enough of it to vaccinate everyone in the world, and 500,000 sharks would die if a booster shot is required. Conservation group Shark Allies reports squalene is a key ingredient in 5 of the 176 vaccines currently being tested. And finally, that's not the right graphic. This is finally, here's something to think about the next time you're in the grocery store. There is a good chance that the seafood being sold there is covered in harmful bacteria. A study published in the journal Foodborne Pathogens and Disease finds of the 400 samples of seafood taken from Turkish fish markets, more than half were found to have illness-promoting bacteria. Most commonly, dangerous strands of E. coli were found on raw fish, mussels, shrimp, and squid. Many samples also contained Listeria and Vibrio. Coronavirus has also been found on frozen seafood, examined in separate studies. All right, moving on. It is Take Back Tuesday here on the Exam Room Live, where we invite you to take back your health. And my first guest today is someone who reclaimed it in glorious fashion. She is an author, she is an educator, she is a cancer survivor. Please welcome to the Exam Room Live for the very first time, Sally Lipsky. Sally, thank you so very much for joining us today.
It's a pleasure, really. Thank you for having me.
Oh, the pleasure is absolutely all mine. Thank you so very much for taking the time. I wanted to go all the way back to 2008, and that was a transformative year for you. That is when doctors told you that you had cancer. So what exactly was your diagnosis?
My diagnosis was late-stage ovarian cancer, and as usual, with ovarian cancer, it often is diagnosed at a late stage because the symptoms aren't there. And so I was shocked, yes. So it started with surgery, chemotherapy, and then I went into remission from the treatments, but most often the cancer, my type of cancer, will return usually within 24 months.
Mm-hmm. And you said that you were shocked by this and you weren't really experiencing any symptoms. How was your health otherwise leading up to this?
Oh, I thought I was a healthy woman who got my regular exams, who exercised, who ate low-fat dairy, lean meats, followed the guidelines. And that's little did I know that years, especially of all the dairy that I ate, really wasn't in my best interest in hindsight.
What about your family? Was there any history of cancer there?
No history. I'd had the genetic test and no genetic markers for it.
Dang on. So you were just blindsided, huh?
Was blindsided. Yes. And I had 2 teenage daughters at that time, and I was determined. I thought, I just need to do this, get through this with the best I can with my dignity and grace.
So when you first began your treatment, had you started to look at the nutritional component of it at that point, or was that something that came along a little bit later?
That's something that came along about 6-8 months later. I read an article. There was an interview with Dr. David Shervin-Schreiber, who wrote Anti-Cancer, New Way of Life. And that really was startling to me. I had never thought about the link between the foods we consumed and disease. So that is what was my wake-up call right there, to look further into this whole idea of food.
Now, before you discovered that, I know in another, somewhere I read online that you said that you felt like you were a ticking time bomb waiting for that cancer to come back.
Yes.
So when you discovered this, how did that alter your mindset?
Well, the more I read, and I'm an educator at heart. I was a professor of education at this time. So I'm used to reading and researching. And the more I read and then started going to conferences, it was clear to me that I could take back some of the control of my health. It was the first time that I felt a sense of empowerment, that I wasn't just sitting back waiting for the next test, the next scan, the next office visit. So it was very empowering.
I'll bet. And I think, optimism certainly would help guide you along your way, and your journey certainly got you to the point where you are today, 12 years later. I'm curious though, you say that you were focusing on what you thought was healthy. You were still eating dairy, but you were eating lean meats as well. I'm curious what your thought was about vegan diets, about vegetarian, plant-based diets before you made the switch yourself. Did you think it was kind of a taboo, almost a hippy-dippy kind of a thing?
Oh, absolutely. It was like way out there. I wouldn't even consider it, because it wasn't recommended. I look at the health professionals, the healthcare system. It wasn't part of that recommendations.
And how did you react physically to this? It sounds like, emotionally, you got this surge of confidence pretty quickly, but how did your body react to this physically?
Oh, incredible. It's like many people say that you start feeling more energetic. You feel a clarity in your body. I also started practicing other lifestyle changes. Yoga has become a major part of my lifestyle, the sense of mindfulness. So all of that combined, I just feel ever so grateful. And that is why I went into full-time working on plant-based education, because I had felt so fortunate. I had to dig for this information, but I got the information, I put it into practice. And I don't want other people to have to dig for it.
Yeah,
it should be out there.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about what it is that you've been up to, because that's really incredible, including your wonderful book. But I'm curious, so you had to go digging for this information. Did you then, once you discovered it, share it with your doctors as well?
I did, yes.
What did they say?
My yearly, at that point, it was, probably every 3 months, I was going to my oncologist and my primary care. They said, okay. And just, that was their initial response. It wasn't I don't think they were aware of it, of the power of it, and knowledgeable about the nutrition.
Gotcha. So forgive me, I'm not overly familiar with the course of treatment for your form of cancer. So what kind of biomarkers are they looking for when they track you following that course of treatment to make sure that you're in remission? And then how were your levels before and after switching to this plant-based diet?
Well, I want you to know that I should tell all women this. When I was first diagnosed, it was a month after my yearly gynecological exam where everything was clear. So that shows you how this ovarian cancer can just sneak up before you know it. And I was diagnosed, I thought I was having a urinary tract infection, started to feel some pressure and sonogram. And the first doctor said I would just cyst. Fortunately, I had a doctor who gave me a blood test. The CA-125 is the marker for ovarian cancer. It is supposed to be under 35. At that point, it was over 2,000. So that was a pretty solid indicator that I had cancer in my body.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And by the way, I have my annual visit now, Friday, and I got my test results. I still get nervous looking at those test results, but not like I used to, and it's at 8. So it's maintained. My CA-125 has, for a dozen years, been, yes, normal.
Okay. So let's go back over that. When you got that first blood test, when you were diagnosed, the number was what now?
It was, oh my gosh, it was over 2,000.
Wow.
Yeah, it was very high.
And today it's what?
It's 8.
Wow, what a turnaround. So do you still feel like, I know that you just said that you got nervous, but do you still feel like you're kind of a ticking time bomb waiting for this to come back, or you breathing much easier?
Much easier, much easier. And it has actually taken years, even when I fully adopted whole food plant-based eating, you still have that uncertainty that's living with you. With each blood test, it got to the point it was every 6 months. And now I'm at a year with each exam. It's almost an automatic response. Because of the terror. There's nothing else to put it. It is the terror of the initial diagnosis and the prognosis.
For sure. And now you have this great success, and you said you don't want people to go digging for it. So you write this great book, and I know that throughout the month of October, you're actually donating a portion of those proceeds to the Physicians Committee, which we greatly appreciate. And you're actually working with people one-on-one as well. How much of a help is it when you're working with people so closely that you've actually walked in their shoes before? You know the path that they're on and the feelings and all of the emotions that come with it.
I would, from my standpoint, I think it's probably very helpful that I offer this information. Not everyone accepts it. There's a lot of people who don't, but I do feel it's a moral obligation to offer this information and to work with people through all kinds of outreach to get them to the point where they're feeling a sense of wellness, a sense of control, and also being able to sustain that, because that's huge. That support is so important, because most people who do adopt any kind of vegan diet, if they feel isolated and don't have some point of ongoing support, they start to slide back.
And the name of that book is Beyond Cancer, The Powerful Effect of Plant-Based Eating. I think that what an appropriate title that is. Again, a portion of the proceeds go to the physician.
All of the proceeds. All of the proceeds are going to PCRM in honor of the work done by this organization.
Cannot thank you enough for that for the entire month of October. You are the absolute greatest. So go pick up a copy of that. But I also want to ask you about this other event that you have coming up, the Power of a Plant-Based I'm sorry, the power of a plant strong diet to help prevent breast cancer. This is another extraordinary work that you've got going on.
Yes, I lead PlantBased Pittsburgh. We've actually formed a nonprofit, and it's an organization that works towards educating and supporting and developing a community of health. And we're an independent affiliation through the Plant Pure communities. And through that, I've also met Harriet Emerson, who is from Salt Lake Thrive, and eager to collaborate and use our resources from different parts of the country. And so for the month of October, we are doing 2 Zoom presentations to inform people about the power of food to fight, prevent, and even reverse some cancers. So that is where we have Dr. Nikki Davis coming up on October 8th. And we have Brittany Giroudi, who is going to do a cooking demonstration October 21st. So that's part of since COVID, that's part of PlantBased Pittsburgh has been doing is twice monthly Zoom presentations to whoever.
you see that you have a fan apparently there from Cheryl.
Thank
Go
you,
Pittsburgh
Cheryl.
with the heart. How great is that? Oh man. That is phenomenal. So that is coming up October 8th and the 21st. Love those virtual events. It really helps you reach a global audience. So that is
it's
fantastic.
Amazing. Yes, hundreds of people. And we post them on our PlantBased Pittsburgh YouTube. It's amazing the views, and that's what we're about, is spreading the word.
That's what it boils down to. That's the same reason we do this show. And that's the exact reason why my hat is off to you. So go, everybody, sign up for these wonderful events, October 8th and the 21st. And of course, go pick up your copy of Beyond Cancer as well. Sally, thank you so very much for joining us today. I'm so thrilled that you were here. You are just a delight. Thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure, Chuck. Thank you.
All right. Now, 1 out of 8 women will be diagnosed with breast cancer in their lifetime. So I want for you also to join us for the Let's Beat Breast Cancer campaign here at the Physicians Committee. We've put together our 4-pronged approach. That is 4 steps that you can take to lower your risk of breast cancer. So head over to letsbeatbreastcancer.org. You can learn those 4 steps. You see them up on the screen right now, and then take the pledge to follow them. And when you take that pledge, you will also be entered to win a prize pack that is valued at up to $600, courtesy of some of our great sponsors, some of our great Let's Beat Breast Cancer campaign sponsors like Cellular One. So thank you, everybody who helps to make this campaign such a tremendous success this year. Head over to letsbeatbreastcancer.org and take that pledge and get yourself entered today. All right, time now to open up the doctor's mailbag. And for that, we welcome back to the show the doctor behind Planted, a plant-based program designed to empower moms to prioritize their health. With that, please help me welcome Dr. Jasmol Sardana, back to the exam room live. Dr. Jazz, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me again, Chuck. Always happy to be here.
Great to see you. Last night was class number 1 for Planted. How did everything go?
Yes, it was. Oh my gosh. There's something so special and magical that happens when when women come together and we share our stories and we share and pull from this collective wisdom that we have. So it was a beautiful time. We really learned a lot together. There are expert presentations that the participants were able to hear from. We got to learn from each other and then left walking away with something really actionable to be working on. So it was a great time. Thank you.
Oh, I love to hear that. And here's the cool thing too. The classes, they are running through this month and into next. And if you register for Planted today, there's a buy one, get one free offer. It's not too late to register. So you can go ahead and sign up and learn along with Dr. Jazz and everybody else, all the other moms in the group. Head over to ptrm.org/events. Get in on that buy one, get one free offer. Bring a family member, bring a friend, just get together, get planted together. I think
that's right.
You see the address right there on the screen. pcrm.org/events/planted is the place to go. All right, Dr. Jazz, you ready to open up the doctor's mailbag and start filling some questions?
Let's do it.
All right. So if you have a question, go ahead and drop that in the comment section. Now let's go ahead and just load up this mailbag today. First question comes to us from Brian on Facebook, a question about vitamin D3. He wants to know, should I take 125 micrograms of vitamin D3 every other day? What do you think about supplementing with vitamin D3?
Yeah, so great question. Vitamin D, just to start off, the normal range is still a little bit controversial, but the accepted range is around 20 to 40 nanograms per milliliter. It's a blood test, and we are able to check it. And there's two forms of vitamin D that you can supplement with should your lab value fall outside of that range. There's vitamin D2 and there's vitamin D3. The difference there is the source where vitamin D2 and vitamin D3 comes from. Vitamin D3, for the most part, comes from animal sources versus vitamin D2, which comes from a plant source. And so the recommendation, you could take either. Head to head, actually, when trials have looked at vitamin D and D2 versus vitamin D3, they're both efficacious. Vitamin D3 actually seems to perform a little bit better as far as being more efficient in raising that value. However, clinically, we're not sure what the significance is of that being that efficient. So either or is a really good option. Taking 125 micrograms every other day sounds like it's probably on the lower end, just because the supplements that I've seen and what I recommend to my patients often start at least at 400 international units. So I'm not sure about the actual conversion there. So how I prescribe vitamin D is through international units. And to get really clear on the exact dosage that you require, you should have a blood test. You should know what your level is, and then kind of go from there to figure out what the appropriate amount of supplementation should be.
All right. Before we grab the next question, a couple of quick hellos. I hope I'm getting this name right. Kanan, who's watching us over in Italy. That's awesome. I'm
so my gosh.
Join us today as well. Italy, right? That's so
Ciao.
Cool. Well played. And then Pupsy says, greetings from my side of the world. I don't know what side of the world that is, but I'm grateful that you are here as well.
Same here.
All right. Dr. Jez, this is actually a question that came up yesterday on the program, and it's one that a lot of people are wondering. It's about getting access to lifestyle medicine, a good plant-based physician, when you may have insurance restrictions. Somebody, Elaine, actually began the conversation commenting that not all people have the choice of doctors under their medical plans. And then someone else followed up and said, I agree. It is hard to find a doctor who's okay with the plant-based lifestyle that is covered by my insurance. So what advice do you have for patients who are very much interested in finding a lifestyle medicine doctor, but may not have one in their network?
Right. First of all, that's pretty tragic. There are measures that we're taking at the American College of Lifestyle Medicine, which is our professional organization that represents lifestyle medicine physicians like myself, to make sure that lifestyle medicine, so this isn't an issue, we're making sure that lifestyle medicine grows and that enough and all of us are hearing more about lifestyle medicine. So we're trying to do the work to get this message out there. And unfortunately, not enough people are hearing it fast enough. So what do you do in that situation? Number one, I'm going to say is find a good doctor, whether they, adhere to a plant-based diet or not. Finding someone who you actually can trust, has great medical knowledge, that you have a good relationship with, is number one. It really doesn't make sense to, see someone who's plant-based but doesn't listen to you and doesn't give you the time to be able to address your concerns. So finding a physician who you really vibe with is number one. And if because of insurance restrictions, you're not able to see a physician who practices lifestyle medicine, you can always supplement with, going to, for example, the American College of Lifestyle Medicine. They have amazing patient-facing resources available at their website. It is lifestylemedicine.org, if I'm not mistaken, that really talks about whole food plant-based diet and medical evidence regarding physical activity, stress reduction, So that is one particular place that you could go to kind of supplement and to even share some of that information with the physician that you're seeing who may not know about this, because you can actually take medical evidence. This isn't, a Google article, or this isn't, this is real medical evidence from that professional organization, which is medical evidence, and the American College of Preventative Medicine is another great resource where you can get medical factual information for yourself and share that with your physician in the interim until you find someone who you are able to participate with. But we're trying on our end as lifestyle medicine physicians to get this message out there. But in the interim, using, leaning and looking to these professional organizations to fill that gap is my advice.
I see Starla is watching the show today. Starla Maurer, she's a friend of the show. She actually has an incredible story of her own. She's telling the story about her husband right now in the chat room. Says that he's been 3 years cancer-free, went vegan during treatment and never got sick, never lost his hair, was able to walk and to work, all while getting chemotherapy. Had stage 3 colon cancer, did 13 treatments. She says going vegan was the best thing that they ever did. Why is it that people, a lot of times when they do adopt this plant-based diet, they don't have nearly as severe side effects when it comes to those treatments as others do?
So this is going to, it's going to vary from person to person. I want to be really clear that I don't want to make a blanket statement, but in general, plant-based diets are really great because the same reason why plant-based diet is so beneficial in preventing chronic diseases, in managing chronic disease, and even reversing chronic diseases has a lot to do with inflammation. And that is just a very simple term, but there are so many complex cascades underlying that we don't even yet know all of the answers to. But the important phytonutrients and phytochemicals, the antioxidants, the amount of fiber that's in a plant-based diet is largely beneficial across the board, across chronic diseases, in preventing or lessening maybe some of the side effects that patients are facing. In addition to that, when you are taking care of your diet, I firmly believe this, when you start paying attention to what you're eating versus mindlessly, stopping over at the fast food joint on the way home and, just eating whatever happens to be around. When you start to become really intentional about what you're putting into your body knows and understands that you love it, you care for it. And there is a very profound relationship between, how you take care of your body and your body's ability to heal. We don't yet know, science hasn't yet defined what that is, but we see that across the board, even in spirituality and prayer. We don't know why these things, scientifically work or help, but they are beneficial. But there is rigorous science behind a whole food plant-based diet and the mechanisms underlying it. And again, that's why it's beneficial kind of across the board.
All right. Here's a question comes to us from Mona at 1230. Wants to know, do you recommend iron supplements for women who suffer from endometriosis? And if so, how much and how often?
So the details of that is going to, are really going to largely depend on, your particular iron level, if you're anemic, all sorts of things, whether you have side effects, and there are different preparations of iron. So part of why I don't get into specifics with patients and answering these questions or people is because we're not patients. I don't have all of that data. But iron is often recommended because one of the side effects of endometriosis can be menomenorrhagia, which is irregular and heavy menses. And as you lose more blood during your period, your cycle, you're going to lose iron. And so you're going to be iron deficient. And that on its own has, lots of ramifications. Iron is so incredibly important in making sure that oxygen is delivered to all of our tissues. So if you don't have that, you're going to feel dizzy. You're going to feel tired. You're going to get winded going up a flight of stairs. You're going to feel fatigued. You're not going to be able to think straight. So iron supplementation is definitely important if that is how the endometriosis is manifesting for you. And again, the details of that you should discuss with your physician.
All right. Final question. I mean, I want for you to speak to this one both as a mother and as a physician. This is right in your wheelhouse. This is a question from Diana on Facebook. Wants to know, how do you get your kids to eat a plant-based diet when they are so used to eating junk?
Well, I tie all of my kids up and then I just, no.
Mother of the year.
number one is example. Our kids watch every single thing that we do and that we don't do, and what we say and the things that we don't say sometimes. My kids observe every single thing. They surprise me every single day. And even the things that maybe I've said that I don't remember that I've said, my kids will remind me, well, mommy, I heard you say that. And so I know that my example is the most important piece when it comes to encouraging my children to eat a whole food plant-based diet. So if they see mommy eating vegetables as a snack versus chips, they know that that's probably a good thing. If they see mommy drinking water versus soda, that encourages them to do the same. And, example is number one. I also talk to my kids about the importance of a whole food plant-based diet and why we don't choose to eat meat, why we don't have dairy and cheese in our home. And I actually have a real conversation with them. Maybe it's not at the level here on the Exam Room podcast or with my patients, but our children are so incredibly bright and brilliant that if we also share with them some of the real reasons why we're doing this, they will understand and they'll come on board. And then you have to give them the opportunity to choose what they'd like to eat, right? So if they don't like vegetables, that they hate broccoli, well, let them decide what vegetables you're deciding that you'd like to try. One thing I like to do with my kids is I build a platter for them for their afternoon snack. I'll put a bunch of vegetables and fruits, hummus, some nuts, some toasted, bread to dip in, and they get to choose how many of those vegetables, how many of those fruits that they want to eat. So be an example, talk to them, offer it to them, because if it's not there, they're not going to eat it. And then just continue to improve that way.
All right, outstanding. Dr. Jazz, that is great wisdom as always. I feel like my nutrition IQ is at least 2 points higher today, just based off of the last 15 minutes. So I appreciate that. Oh, and as a reminder, Planted, okay, that is still going on for the next month and a half, something like that.
Yeah, we're going to take it through November.
Oh, wow. So you still have almost 2 full months worth of courses here, which is great because you can get in on that buy one, get one free offer for registration right now. Head over to pcrm.org/events/planted. Sign up, bring a friend, bring a family member, bring your sister, bring your mother, bring your best friend. It doesn't matter. Your bottom line, get in on this community, right?
Absolutely. And for those of you that still want to sign up, our first class, our presentation section was recorded. So it offers that flexibility so you can catch up and join in next Monday. And I'd love to see all of you guys.
Outstanding. I'd love to hear that. The archives are available. So important. You won't miss a thing at that point. pcrm.org/events/planted. Dr. Jazz, thank you so very much.
Thank you, Chuck.
All right. If we didn't get to your question today, I promise you we will save it and try to get you an answer on an upcoming episode. So go on, keep posting them in the comment section now. Watch us tomorrow. Maybe we'll get you an answer. And don't forget, you can also schedule a telemedicine appointment to visit with Dr. Jazz at the Barnard Medical Center by visiting barnardmedical.org or picking up the phone, calling 202-527-7500. Appointments now available in more than a quarter of the country. You see that list of states right there. It's growing all the time. 202-527-7500 or barnardmedical.org. And by the way, there is a new episode of the Exam Room podcast out today. Going to revisit the conversation with Dr. Neil Barnard, where he gives an update on where things stand with the COVID-19 situation, answered a lot of your questions as well. The episode, we call it COVID-19 Diets to Projections. It explores how critical it is, especially right now, for you to eat a healthy diet so that it gives you the best opportunity to not become severely infected. Also, we take a look at what epidemiologists are forecasting as far as infections as we head into the fall or winter. So head over to Apple Podcast or Spotify, look for the Exam Room podcast by the Physicians Committee, hit that subscribe button, and also leave a 5-star rating. And when you do that, by the way, it helps us tremendously because every new subscription and every 5-star rating helps get the show in front of somebody who needs the information the most. So we are truly making the world a healthier place, one subscription and one 5-star rating at a time. Coming up back here on the Exam Room Live tomorrow, Dr. Neil Barnard will be joining us, so get your questions ready for him. Plus, we're going to be joined by plant-based family physician Dr. Nikki Davis. You heard us speak about her earlier in the show, so she will be here to answer the questions as well. Looking forward to having her on the program. But for today, we are fresh out of time. I want to say thank you once again to Sally Lipsky for sharing her incredible story with us. So inspirational. And of course, Dr. Jasmol Sardana for sharing all of her wisdom with us today as well. And a big thank you to the crew behind the scenes that makes the plant-based magic happen. You guys are awesome. And you who is watching my Exam Roomie, thank you as well for tuning in. For everyone here at the Exam Room and the Physicians Committee, I am the weight loss champion, Chuck Carroll. Thanks so very much for tuning in. And until tomorrow, stay safe, take a stand, and keep it plant-based.